Hey everyone, the last Shoegazer here, bringing you another review in the TheHORRORman's Slashback series. So this week's Slashback Saturday theme was slasher remakes. I know a lot of people have mixed feelings on the Friday the 13th remake from 2009. And I'll be honest, whenever I saw it initially, I had some mixed feelings as well. It wasn't quite what I wanted, but at that point, it didn't take me long to realize that what I wanted was just another Friday the 13th film. I really didn't have any, elaborate expectations. So I've since kind of learned to really embrace this installment. It doesn't play as one of my favorite Friday the 13th films by any means from start to finish, but there are enough really fun, awesome moments all kind of blending together enough to make this, one of my top picks out of the newer installments in the franchise. I did do a complete Friday the 13th ranking a little earlier last year, whenever we had Friday the 13th week, and everyone was kind of weighing in and showing different collectibles and their favorite editions and doing full franchise rankings. And many of you know this is my favorite slasher franchise from back in the day. While a number of the originals are a lot nearer and dearer to my heart, this one definitely sits pretty well with me these days. There's a lot of moments that I do not care for a whole lot. I actually prefer, I would say, more elements of even Freddy versus Jason. I think I'm really drawn to that one a little bit more in different ways because of the awesome soundtrack and just the complete over-the-top insanity from start to finish. With the extreme gory fights between Freddy and Jason, and it kind of takes us back to both of those worlds. Whereas this one, not quite as insane, but it definitely puts us back in just Jason's world, and a little bit more in depth. So yeah, this is definitely up there for me. My favorite will always be part 2, then part 1, the original. I just remember awesome moments from my childhood checking those out for the first time, and a number of the follow-ups there. Definite favorites, but this is up there. It's a fun time. I really like the portrayal of Jason in this. A lot more intense and brute-like. A lot of force. His underground lair in the camp is just really elaborate, and kind of paints him as a little bit more of like an intelligent figure in the franchise. I remember, and I'm sorry, I feel like I'm like all over the place with this, but every time I talk about Friday the 13th, my brain just goes in a million different directions. Whenever this opened up, the first night of the showing there, years ago, 2009, it seems like a long time ago now. I actually planned to go see this with my ex at the time, who I was with for a while, and she was into a lot of different horror films. So this was one that we were both really excited about. I think Friday the 13th was a little bit more special to me than it was to her, but she was, I think, just as excited for me to see this new installment that everyone was like really waiting for, and a lot of hype and build up. And I remember we went to see the first showing, and it was all sold out, so we had to get a later showing. There weren't many tickets left for that one either, so a lot of people were really in on this and really excited about it. And I remember kind of leaving feeling like, oh, it wasn't quite as like powerful and iconic as I wanted it to be, but it was fun. I think the thing that spoiled it a little bit for me was a little bit of like over focus on like the drug elements and some of the characters. Just didn't care about them enough. But it had enough of I guess the allure of that Friday the 13th Camp Crystal Lake lore, and just seeing Jason on camera in a new way, and having everything be just darker, and seeing him just doing his thing in kind of a new way, and seeing some new parts of Crystal Lake kind of done in a different way, set apart from the originals, yet kind of paying them tribute. So it was just different enough, and good enough that after all these years, I've learned to embrace it a little bit more. Definitely a fun time. Definitely check it out if you haven't seen it. It is not, the best Friday the 13th by any means, in my opinion, which this is all that is, my opinion. But yeah, check out my Friday the 13th ranking of the whole franchise that I did earlier last year for Friday the 13th week. Had a lot of fun with that. I'm sure my detailed opinions on each one have changed maybe just a little bit, but I remember feeling pretty firm whenever I recorded that. I went back and forth for a number of days on some different ideas and thoughts up until the end. So that's probably going to hold pretty true even today, a year later. I like the opening sequence. It definitely threw everyone off in the theater. People kind of went wild over that because it just seemed like a little like mini movie within a movie, and then it like all of a sudden it stopped, and it's like, oh my gosh, this is just now beginning. That was just a really cool intro. And then it took a new turn, and we got to meet a whole new set of characters. A number of them I did not really like or care for. I thought some of them were way overdone and over the top, and the one guy there, just kind of like a frat, idiot, very opinionated and rude, and like a bully, and I mean that's how he was painted, from the get-go. But I could not stand him, and his interactions with the other characters, and it kind of just like made all the other characters just sort of like rise up against him, and feeling bitter throughout. I feel like the majority of the film, then it didn't really let them develop in any other different ways. So yeah, I was kind of rooting for the brother trying to find his sister, and that was good. But even, some of that acting was just a little bit too cheesy and not quality enough for what I was kind of hoping for with the remake here. But it took us back to a very special world that's near and dear to my heart, as it is for many. And yeah, that's why this remake made the cut today. It is one of my favorite slasher remakes. And yeah, thought I would just kind of finally do an official review for it without giving too much away. Love the setting, the atmosphere, the kills. I feel like the editing and camera work is just top notch. Lighting is really horrific. Jason looks awesome. The camp looks awesome. Just not really super into the characters, and just the overall feel wasn't amazing for me. But yeah, I enjoy it, and I think you would too if you haven't seen it yet. Definitely go into it realizing that it's not a classic Friday the 13th installment by any means, but it's a lot of fun. Very similar to like the Freddy versus Jason, but just not quite as over the top and like soundtrack driven or anything. So yeah, what are your thoughts on the remake? I know everyone has their own opinion. I can definitely appreciate that, but that was mine. So Joe, thanks for doing the Slashback series, man, and I'm anxious to see what you guys pick for your entries into this week of slasher remakes. And until next week, guys, have a good one.